Coming into today, we get rejected at exactly the point we mentioned yesterday on the ES and Nasdaq futures. Now, when we mentioned this, we had a little bit of concern, but we talked about getting the bounce from yesterday's lows all the way back up here. If you're not subscribed and you're not watching the channel, updating yourself and having those alerts on, then I don't know what to tell you, because we're talking about the market every single day, the fundamentals and the technicals behind this, getting you prepared for each trading day. So I ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. Now we're gonna get back in here. As we have this happening, I want to go over exactly how this played out, the volume, and then what's going to go on into Monday morning. I'll have a little bit more coverage coming in Sunday, but let's talk about this right now. Going into the Nasdaq, let's break this down. So basically, I'm going to open up our opens indicator just to give you a better visual of the day and the time frame. So market opens up around this time here. This is where we actually open up, and this is how we start moving. So we open up with a little bit of downside, followed back up with the upside. Now, when we look at this, it wasn't bad, and you actually had a few good things mentioned on the day. So compared to previous days, we've come down to key areas and buyers don't step in, right? So going into Monday, you dip, you come to our key level, you bounce, but there's never any good volume here. The next day, Tuesday, you get a bounce, you get rejected. Buyers never step in. The next day, we can keep going back and back to this volume, and it's how we mention it. It's just volume hasn't been kicking in, right? And then today, something interesting happened. You can actually see these really nice candles here. This is good buying. And if you look at the volume behind this, it was good volume. Actually, today on the SPY, we had roughly 100 million volume, almost 150% more than your average volume on the SPY, which is normally around 64, 63 million. So you're pushing up here, you're moving good. Now, what happens though? Where was our key indicator for everyone? Now, just to verify this, I actually want to go back to what I said in Discord to everyone there. So around right here, you can see 936. This is central. I said you're at our key levels. There's no reason to go long. Nasdaq is at two resistances. ES is at its previous low as well. I just don't want to trade to the upside through these levels. For me, it isn't worth it. You can trade 0 DTE and make some scalps, but again, I'm not trying to be over aggressive. What did I do? Within the next few minutes, I started looking at the call side and other plays I was looking at. And then that's when we start setting up our position into AMD. $80 strike September 16th, sitting at 208 a contract. Guess what happened there? Going there, you started tanking. What happened though? Where was the key indicator that told us it was time to start getting into puts to trade the downside? It was all based on volume. You come up to our resistances here on Nasdaq and you get rejected. You sit here, volume deteriorates, and the only type of volume that comes in is selling pressure, and that's what happened. Boom. You get taken out almost immediately, pushed right back down to the previous day's lows. That's Nasdaq, and that's what happened. Now, going into this coming week, I'm going to tell you right now on NQ, you're in danger. As we speak, you are in major, major danger. I do believe if you break below this 12,000 region, I want to point out right now, right here roughly, you get below this, your next line of defense is going to be previous lows roughly. I believe you have a little bit of room down towards like 11.7, 11.6, but I believe once you break below 12,000, you're working your way towards new lows below 11,000 flat on Nasdaq. That's Nasdaq completely going into Monday. I see downside. I'm sorry, not Monday, Tuesday with Labor Day. I'm sorry. Next up, we're going to look at ES futures SPY. Now, SPY did very similar things. We actually covered that chart as well. On the 5-minute, you can come in and look. What happened here? You come right to your level. Boom. Rejected. These are the same levels we mentioned yesterday, people. I'm not changing them. I'm not manipulating them. Go look. It's the same highs you had back here on the 30th and 31st. And then guess what? It's your previous lows from the 28th. Easy, easy, easy. And what happens here? Nothing but selling volume, people. Downside, downside, downside. Going into the SPY, which is the actual index here that you can trade. Again, what happens here? It's the same thing. Your previous low, previous high, double top, rejection. It's that simple, people. And if you want to get the best visual on this, I don't like Trading View's volume indicator. I recommend Thinkorswim for volume. It's extremely easy to monitor. But if you look here what happened, you can actually see where this starts to go wrong. Market opens, you get that nice pressure, volume stays decent. Guess what happens in this box right here from 10 o'clock essentially to 11? Your volume goes nowhere, straight downside, and then it rises back up all on sellers until the end of the day. So as I look at this, I see a lot of blood. I see sellers showing all the strength, and I see buyers showing all the weakness. Buyers are not stepping up when they need to, which continues to push you for more downside. Again, our target on the week, where was it for SPY? It was 391, 392. You hit it. As we look back, let's look at the 4 hour. Where are we expecting next? It's not good, people. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not good. My next target is down here, 385.5 to 386. Next target, I believe that will come in pretty quick as well. You break below these lows at 390, 385 is going to be coming extremely quick. Your last line of defense before making new lows is going to be 380 to 382. If that breaks, new lows will come, or at least a retest of previous lows. Keep it on your radar. That's what I'm looking at. Big bear here. I'm going to go into Bookmap and then Cheddar Flow as well. Bookmap, what was happening here? Again, this all reiterates what was happening on the day, okay? As we go to the beginning of the day, everything comes back to 10 o'clock. So beginning of the day, what happened? You had no liquidity. Nothing was really happening here, right? Before I go any further, I want to give a special shout out to Hanka Trade. This is who I am currently using when I'm trading futures in the after hours or anything like that. You already know where I do my Bitcoin trading, and now this is where I do my future trading using Bitcoin as well. You can trade the NAS and the SPX basically 24/5 using their platform. And when you're looking at account types to be using, the one I'm using is going to be the ECN Plus. I'll explain why, because I'm going to be doing $1,000 challenge here on the channel, as well as most likely the new channel as well. So you can follow me along using the platform, learn how to use it as well if you're interested in using anything like this. And a key reason that I'm using Hanka Trade specifically is because, one, they're going to use my base currency. Two, if I ever want to do something like Forex as well, when it pairs well with something the way that the economy is moving, I can also use them for that. But it's also going to be very minimal when it comes down to these commissions, which can rack up. They're also going to give you the capability to go to max leverage. Now, I'm never going up to 500, but I am leveraging my money specifically on futures. And when it comes to trading any type of Forex or anything like that, based on what I'm trading and how my style performs. And just so you know, they are also running a bonus, giving you 100% deposit bonus on whatever you're using. You can always withdraw your initial deposit, but you need to look at the actual rules for depositing the 100% bonus when you are trading it, because there are certain rules that apply as well. But they have a lot of promotions going on, so I would definitely be checking them out right now, because this is how you can trade some of the futures that I'm talking about here in the video. So basically, if you're looking here, the darker it gets towards red, the more sellers or buyers. So right here, this is a giant sell wall. You broke through it, and then you came up to this level, you got rejected, right? So you had no liquidity in the beginning of the day. It was nowhere to be found. There was none to the upside. There's none to the downside. As the day progresses and you get to 10 o'clock, what happens? Right here, sellers start lining up the wall. Imagine you go to a wall and it's nothing but soldiers. That's all that happened. The sell warriors were there. They were there to hold you down, and they were not letting you get above. Again, aligning with what was happening to volume, with sellers stepping into the market, because as you can see, sellers started to take control, which inevitably pushed you down to that major downside. Again, I was telling everyone in Discord, I wasn't even that active in Discord today because I had my son, but I was telling them, there's no reason to go long here. Sellers are still showing up. Every single time they need to, they show up. Every time you hit a demand or supply zone, sellers dominate more than buyers do. Every single time. So that's what we're looking at here. When we look at the icebergs, what's happening here as well. Very choppy sideways day. End of the day, it goes both ways. You had some buying volume, you had some selling volume. Again, both ways, kind of up in the air. But as I look back at the chart, I have to be bearish. Into Cheddar Flow. As we look here, what's happening? SPY futures heavily favoring the downside. Aggressive orders across the board. QQQ, tech, heavy favors affecting and going towards and pricing in the upside movement for puts. They are betting on downside on the market. Again, this is what we've been seeing every day and visualizing this and going over. SPX, nothing but downside. This has been the most bearish outlook that we've had when we're looking at the entire market right now. So as I look at this, I have to be concerned and I have to anticipate that downside based on everything that we went over. You had everything play out to a T here, okay? So I actually want to cover some fundamental viewpoints. We haven't done much of that here on the channel this week, and I want to talk about specifically what's going on with these levels as well. J and K. We actually had some decent movement here, and this probably faked out some people. Looking at the 15-minute on J and K, I'm actually going to get rid of volume because it's not important here. On J and K, you continue to trend towards the downside. Clearly, just downside, 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 and you just don't even follow the trend. But just to show you, nothing but downside here. You're dangerously close to your previous lows here on J and K as well. So when you had that massive dump before on S&P futures and the Nasdaq, right? Getting very close. Looking at DXY, the dollar value, inflation. Guess what? You're pumping back up. You're reaching back to new highs. You're probably going to make new highs going into next week. The dollar's very bullish. The euro's bearish. The pound, very bearish. Every other economy in the world is being killed except ours right now. I'm just saying, who's up next? You would have to bet on the one country that's not in this dangerous territory yet. As we go into the yields, one of the biggest indicators here, again, I love to go over yields because it shows you really what's happening behind the scenes. You actually came down a little bit on yields today. I would say most of that subsided with the downside pressure you had this morning, but it's important to know yields, yes, they can go straight up, but typically they have days where they kind of retrace a little bit. Today's one of those days. You went from 89% inverted up to 97 inverted within 2 weeks, which does not happen on yields, okay? You're still in a very dangerous territory, and I still have to be very bearish as long as we're above 95 to 96%, and you're chilling in that range right now. So I'm going to continue to watch this for the inflation and showing us that we most likely have some dangerous downside. This is one of the big indicators that told us that downside was in fact coming. So we have to respect this over and over and over because it's so important to the market and it's so important to how we're being affected as traders here. Following this, I actually want to do a little bit of a recap on some of the trades we looked at throughout the day and things I mentioned to all of you yesterday. First up is going to be Tesla. What did we say yesterday? We said we were looking for a retest of possibly 278 to 279. To a T, people. To a T. You hit it. 281 came up a little bit higher to 282, and you reject all the way back down. My target would have been 273. You actually broke beneath it. Absolutely bloody, but absolutely beautiful. NVIDIA, AMD, these were my favorite plays. You came up, almost got a double top near that monthly level and rejected right back down towards your key level, which now you're making almost a triple bottom here, but I believe you're going to end up breaking down even further. I like targeting the weakest stocks in the market when I'm betting on downside, and AMD and NVIDIA are the weakest stocks on the market with everything happening in Taiwan and the China concerns. AMD, this is what I took. I got in near this double top. You double topped, and once you broke below this low here, I started trading for that downside pressure. You got a clear rejection here. Buyers could never push you back above. This tells you the same story. Selling volume, selling volume, selling volume. It was there. It dominated. Same overall trend. I still have some positions into next week, but I still love the way this is forming. Downside, downside, downside. These are all the same things I went over yesterday, people. I'm trying to not make it that confusing. I'm trying to line it up for you so you can actually learn something from these and take some of these trades as well. Amazon. What happened here? You came right up to what we talked about, to 131, 130. You come up, you get rejected, and you push right back down, almost hitting our next level to a T, 126, 126.5 roughly. You're right there. These are all setting up. And this comes back to the point of being patient with your trades, people. Let the trade come to you. Just like I told Discord today when we come back in here. What did I tell them? It was extremely, extremely simple. You have to come to the point, stay patient with your trades, and have a plan. I wasn't even that active today, but I was telling everyone, they were all looking for calls. They were all looking to trade the upside. They were falling for the trap. Don't fall for the trap. Be patient. I had a plan. I came in here. I looked at everything that I mentioned to you guys in the video the day before, and I used that information to make my short trades today. Congratulations. Those played out to a T. I did take a loss. I ended up closing my UNG positions just because you had so much fake news coming out. I had to close it. I actually ended up losing about 20% on that play. I like to stay transparent on that as well. So going into this into next week, I still see continued downside. Why? For one, J and K, you're near your bottom. You're very close to that bottom. VIX, absolutely absurd. you're actually maintaining and mounting above $24. I think VIX is set to have one of those $30 pushes very soon. Personal opinion, take it with a grain of salt. Looking at NQ, looking at what's happening here on futures, you continue to get pushed down. If this right here is not selling pressure, then I do not know what is, but I believe sellers have control and sellers are dominating this market as we speak. And I believe along with the fundamentals and things going on a broad scale market, you've got to be concerned. Also, what Russia is doing with energy over there right now, very big concern. Europe is in trouble. If you go to the barrel, the last thing I'll mention here is you're back down to that key buy zone. I'm going to tell you right now. I've been telling everyone, every time you come to this zone, it's been a buying opportunity. We love what's happening here. If you break below 85, 86, I'd be a little bit concerned, probably stop out of my trades. I don't have an oil position, but I do love it. If I'm looking here, I like Exxon, gorgeous. Oxy, gorgeous. USO, riskier play, but when you come down here, it follows the barrel to the T, looks pretty gorgeous. That's going to wrap the video up. If you have any questions, comment down below. I'll see you guys on Sunday.